Hey everybody, what's going on? On this episode of the podcast, we have a special guest. His name is John Brisson, but we will get to that in just a second. Rosie, how you doing, man?
Doing well.
It's been a good week.
It has.
I'm like, all right. Cat's out of the bag. We record this intro after we do the entire podcast.
Yeah.
And my brain is mush right now from all of the information in this podcast that we're about to drop on.
Yeah, as you can tell, it's long.
Yes, it's very long.
And
John is we'll just get it. John is an investigative reporter, and he has a
YouTube channel called We've Read the Documents, where he
reads the documents,
and he does so much research.
Yeah,
it is insane.
Probably one of the most thorough investigative reports. I mean, like, he doesn't talk about it unless he's researched it and has evidence.
Yeah. His knowledge is insane.
His recall was insane. Yeah.
His channel, if you go where there's going to be links to it.
Yeah.
I highly suggest there's stuff I watch video I stumbled upon him, and that's how we became, I guess, friends was I stumbled upon his YouTube channel and watched a bunch of videos, and I was like, oh my God, I've never heard of any of this stuff. And I feel so stupid. Why is no one else talking about this? And yeah, anyways.
So you're going to have a real treat listening to this. And this is literally just, we're going to
scratch the surface.
Yeah, we're scratching the surface, but it's an hour and 30 minutes of one topic. He has vast topics that he talks about in his YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's not just this.
Yeah.
But, we kicking it off. Halloween is going to come before the next episode.
Right.
So we're getting ahead of that. This is our Halloween, quote unquote, episode.
That's right.
If you will. And we're going to, as we've done in the past, I think last Halloween.
We did
one about,
ghosts and demons, ghosts, and things like that.
Maybe some. Oh, I thought we were dispelling. Well, okay, we've done previous episodes where we defend Christianity from like the Salem witch trials or the Crusades. That was more in the vein of what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
And so this one is in the vein of, you've probably heard about Satanic Panic. The Satanic Panic, the crazy Christians going crazy in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give too much because we do talk about what it means, but so was there here's a question I'm rhetorically asking everybody. Was it founded in reality? Were all these people just going crazy because Christians see demons behind every bush and in every corner?
That's right. Or is it real? Is it real?
Yeah. Is there actually a child molester behind every corner?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Yeah. Both.
Yeah.
But so we're going to get, that's going to be a good one. And
it's really good.
Yeah. And, but hey, man, let's do some housekeeping stuff.
Okay.
What do you know, man?
Hey, did you know?
Yes.
That
no, I don't.
There is an infamous pirate named Benjamin Hornigold, and he once raided a ship just to steal their hats.
Their hats.
Here.
What kind of hats?
Real quick.
Yeah.
1717. Hornigold hunted down a merchant ship off the coast of Honduras. As his crew boarded, Hornigold explained that the reason behind this particular plunder. He and his crew had gotten wasted the night before, and in their drunken haze threw their hats into the sea. They needed new ones, and they intended to get them the only way they knew how to do things, to get things in general.
Yeah.
Raiding.
Steal them, yeah.
The merchants of the invaded ship pleaded with the pirates to spare their lives. To their surprise, they got what they wanted. Hornigold let the bareheaded merchants continue on their journey.
That's so funny. I mean, it's just that's so pirate. Like,
yeah. Get drunk, threw all their hats off, and they're like, we can't be pirates if we don't have hats.
That's right. That's amazing.
Yeah. You know what? Here's another. I've just been throwing double. It's honestly because I find so many, and we don't do that many.
I know.
We don't do enough. All right. So there's this guy who is the chief fortune writer at Wonton Foods, the manufacturer that touts itself as being one of the world's largest producers of fortune cookies.
Yeah.
So this dude, Donald Lau, was the head writer of fortune cookie things.
The writer.
Yeah, wrote fortune cookie fortunes.
Yeah.
He did it for 30 years and he retired because he had writer's block.
I mean, I thought they just wrote like.
This was 2 years ago. He quit over writer's block.
I thought they just wrote like 10 fortune cookies, like fortunes, and then they just repopulate them into all the different, like print them off and just put them in all the cookies.
Maybe.
I mean, that's what I thought. I've gotten the same one like multiple times.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Anyways, he got writer's block.
So he just quit 30 years. I'm done.
Wonder if he's getting
He's like there's no more I've written all of the fortunes.
He's getting disability or like what's long-term disability for writer's block or workman's comp.
Workman's comp, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Dude. Well,
so there you go.
So, wait, what's that? Oh.
Yeah. All right.
It's time for our baby update.
Baby update.
Weekly.
Week 24. Big as a pomegranate.
All right.
It is 11.5 inches.
No, not it. She is 11. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed this on our colorful soundboard here. The baby update button it's pink. Yeah.
Well,
for her.
Because it hasn't come out yet and told us what gender it wants to be identified
No, we
as.
don't go that way. But
yes,
no.
In this case.
She's a girl.
All right, well, it's putting on more weight. It's accumulating baby fat, growing muscles, organs, bones. The auditory system is rapidly advancing, which means if it frequently hears a certain song, now it is more likely to recognize it and feel calmed by it when it is born. And it is sporting white eyelashes, eyebrows, and hair.
Sweet.
They have not acquired pigment yet.
Girl. I love you, little girl. I love you. Even though Rosie doesn't.
I love you too.
Oh, man. So this is an amazing podcast episode. And I want to encourage all of our listeners to follow John, go check out his YouTube, click the links in the bio that we're going to have, or in the show notes that we're going to put up there, because he's worth it. And you want to educate yourself.
Yeah.
And great guy, instant friends. Like it's one of those moments, when we were talking.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like pauses in this because we're honestly speechless. We're just like I don't know what to.
Yeah, it's not bad interviewing. It's just I'm trying to digest
so
what
much.
I just heard. Yeah, and like how do I parlay this into the next?
I don't want to sound stupid.
Right. Well, I am stupid, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, you don't.
Oh man. So, anyways, I mean, we did not ask him this question. Wait, what? Oh, I'm an idiot.
Why are you gay?
we did ask him that question.
But he is not.
He's not gay. No way.
No, he's got a kid.
He's got a kid. Yeah, but I mean, he probably thinks that we
smoking that sticky green stuff.
We have to work those in every. We made a vow to you people that we're going to work it in.
You made a vow that you wanted them on every episode.
And we're just struggling to put them in.
We are. We're trying to figure out ways to put them in. So that's just the best way to
Anyways,
do it.
we also have fundraiser information for a veteran.
Yes.
That
great need.
Is in need.
If you
drop in a link. If you can donate. This is the first. We talked about doing fundraisers, donations.
Yeah.
Feel free. We dropped a link in there.
Yeah. Feeling
generous.
Yeah.
Anything helps.
Yeah, anything helps. And we're so blessed. We don't need your money, but if you can give it to someone else, go for it.
Yeah.
So we'll give you opportunities.
So that's what the link's for.
The link is for that. Help this guy out.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's get with it, man. So sit back, grab a coffee, and enjoy.
You're listening to the All Out War podcast.
Hello, Warriors. Welcome to another episode of All Out War. I am Turner, and I'm in the studio with Rosie. What's up, Rosie?
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah. We have a special guest. We've been talking about him. His name is John Brisson, and you can reach him on Twitter at we've_read at Twitter, or you can listen to him on YouTube at We've Read the Documents. John, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you for having me, both Turner and Rosie. Huge fan of the podcast. Love All Out War. Love what you guys are doing. And tonight's podcast, or I guess today's podcast, whatever, depends on where you listen to it. It's going to be a very dark subject, and a subject that some people are going to have a very difficult time believing that even as high as places of our federal government could be involved in such heinous crimes. But the documentation is there, and spiritual warfare and the battle against Satan and everything that is dealing with the Finders cult that we talk about tonight with their connections of Satanism and child trafficking and child abuse. It is all real, very real.
So, okay,
That's perfect.
That's
summary.
perfect. Let's just jump into this. Why don't we, you mentioned the Finders cult. We're going to spend time on that tonight. So why don't we get a backstory on this for our listeners that don't know anything about it, just sort of a summary to get them up to speed, and then you can go wherever you want with it.
Okay, so the Finders cult was a cult that was started by a gentleman named Marion Petty. And Marion Petty was known as the Game Caller. And Marion Petty was originally born and raised in the Culpeper, Virginia area, which is about maybe 50 miles, maybe a little bit more southwest of Washington, D.C. You can actually pass, if you're going up 95, you can pass an exit sign for Culpeper, Virginia, which I passed through many times going up north. But yes, he grew up in that general area, and that would be where the Finders cult, one of their main locations, would be during that time period. So Marion Petty, even from his early childhood, his grandfather, Puller Bunker, was a grave digger, and Marion Petty used to go grave digging with his childhood friends. And actually, one time they had a club when he was a kid where they found a skull. And at abandoned cemetery when they were going grave digging, and they actually would hold it when the group, supposedly according to Marion Petty, would hold meetings. They put the skull in front of the center of the group so they could remind themselves of their own mortality when they were children.
Wow.
When they were children, they were doing rituals like this. Okay, so I mean, it's all this whole narrative is going to be it's all good faith and good fun. All of this. It's not. It's sick and it's evil, and there's no way. Once you know all the evidence and once you go across everything, it's hard to deny that. Just much like the quote unquote Satanic Panic that was going on, Turner and Rosie, during the 1980s, where McMartin Preschool, the Franklin cover-up, the Franklin scandal, which was actually documented by Republican Nebraskan Senator John DeCamp. It wasn't just some guy who magically made up this scandal, but it was, there's a lot of hefty weight behind it. There's other so many different ones, whether it's West Point, which Rudolph Giuliani helped supposedly cover up. That was the scandal that happened in the daycare at West Point, the Presidio daycare, of course, with the supposed involvement of Colonel Michael Aquino, head of the Temple of Set, known Satanist and military official. The list goes on. Glendale Montessori School, which has its own tie-in with the Finders, with James Toward, who was convicted for molestation of children. There was numerous cases that you probably heard of during that time period that you were led to believe was the Satanic Panic. It wasn't real. It was just, the moral panic of Christians and people who were looking around for pedophiles on every corner, stranger danger. And there was no truth to any of these cases. Well, I'm here to tell you today that at the bare minimum, especially let's say McMartin, for example, there's enough forensic evidence. There's a book called The Witch Hunt Narrative by Rossi Chet, where Rossi Chet doesn't even believe in the tunnels or the ritual abuse or anything that's talked about in McMartin. He just says, based off of the forensic evidence, the court documents, that children were molested by Raymond Buckey. And let me ask you guys a question. Turner, Rosie. Would you let your child's preschool teacher, while he's reading Playboys, have your children on his lap while his mother allegedly was visually checking her son for erections while he was having children on his lap? Does that sound like normal behavior to you guys at all?
No, no, absolutely not.
No.
But we're led to believe that McMartin was one of the costliest trials in United States history, and no one did anyone wrong, and none of the children were molested, and it's all satanic panic.
Right. If we could just stop real quick. So I was going to say, I love this. So basically, for anyone, because Turner's old is old and was around in the 80s. I wasn't around in the 80s. A lot of our listening audience probably
weren't born.
Weren't born. Yeah, I wasn't born in the 80s yet.
I was born in the mid 80s myself.
Oh, okay. I was just on the cusp of 90.
You young boys, you.
But for anyone that doesn't know, there's the whole Satanic Panic thing. Was it Mario? Oh, I can't think his name. Not Riviera.
Geraldo Rivera, yes.
Yeah, he did like a thing on national TV, and they did all these like exposés, and basically the culture at the time, this Satanic Panic was used as like to derive us, like these Christians of people saying like, so
it was a mockery. We're crying wolf, all that.
Yeah, and it was basically, which we're going to get into, is that their kids were saying, hey, this stuff's happening at preschools all over the country. And I mean, that's just the tip of stuff that's going on. And these parents are saying like, oh, there's these Satanists that are running around doing this. And they're, all these kids are being molested and stuff like that. And basically what the popular culture went out to prove was that we're Christians and we're just, the moral majority. We're trying to, dampen on people's freedoms. I'm sure they said stuff like that, and we're just crazy. Yeah. So that's what this culture of the Satanic Panic was, of rock music. So they made it to a caricature to just an extreme.
And I can just add to that, because I did grow up. I was born in 70, so I was in my teens when all this was happening. I remember I was not a Christian. I became a Christian at 18, and I remember
back in 80. Damn, late. I was gonna say like 48 or something, make a joke, but
yeah, I'm not that old, man. And trust me, it's coming your way. But I remember there was inside the church, there was all of this rock music, and there was all of these backmasking was becoming huge, and they were like, people would go to churches and literally play. They would have like entire special services on a Sunday night where some guy would come in and talk about the dangers of rock music and all of the backmasking messages from Satan and all of that. And there was just this heightened sense of satanic activity. And I don't know what fueled all of that. I don't know, because I was just become aware of being born again. So I was like, everything was new to me, like for the first time I realized, oh my gosh, there is God, there is a Satan, there is evil, there's good and evil. Yeah. And I had been rescued from the dark. And I remember in the churches, though, there was that too. So there was some legitimacy to what Geraldo was doing and all these other groups. But in the sense of underneath it, there was a reality of some real activity that was happening.
And I don't know if we said it already here, but it was like, I think you summed it up really great, John, that it was almost like mass discernment. Yeah. That even if people... It seems like, obviously I wasn't there, but it seems like everyone was kind of aware of something is not right, and we may not know exactly what it is, but something's not right. And that got chalked up to being crazy Christians that want to...
Paranoid, demon behind every bush.
And so, anyway, that's just for people that aren't aware of what the culture was. That's kind of what it was. They're just crapping on Christians.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, and it still continued. It disappeared. Do you think all those abuses stopped? I sure don't.
No,
right, not my slightest bit. It's just, but now everybody, and the thing is as much as this is one thing that really grinds my gears, and I'll go on it for a second, is that say what people want to say about the Russian narrative when it comes to Trump, whether because two sides, whether it's fake or true or whatever. That's not what I'm discussing here. What I'm discussing is it saddens me that conservatives on Twitter will link in the witch hunts, the witch hunt of Donald Trump to the McMartin witch hunts.
Right.
And I mean, Michael Savage did in one of his most recent books. And then not only did Dr. Savage not, do research in McMartin, whether it's true or not or anything, he just literally his article, his linked article for it like his links, his references were like list verse articles. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, so, it makes me sad because all these conservatives who are supposed to have Christian values are going to say, well, McMartin's a witch hunt too, just like Trump's being witch hunt.
Right.
And I'm like, how's this helping anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, all right. So people are going to wonder who's McMartin. You're going to have to tell us who that.
It was the preschool.
Okay, got it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so McMartin Preschool is a preschool in Manhattan Beach, California. That dealt with Virginia McMartin was the owner. She was Raymond Bucky's grandmother, and then you have Raymond Bucky's mother, Peggy Bucky, who worked for the school too as well, and Ray Bucky, her son, and Virginia McMartin's grandson, who worked for the school too as well.
So he was the guy looking at the Playboys with the kids on his lap.
Yes, he was.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
And the one who allegedly, and I do believe and stand by it, at the bare minimum molested children. At the grand maximum, there was satanic ritual abuse that was going on to the highest order to those children. And the tunnels were real, and children were being trafficked to world elites and stuff through those tunnels and ferried off through private jets similar to Pizzagate.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. So I was going to say that sounds exactly like that. So our audience, we did an episode on it and everything like that. So I think this is just like the early, I'm sure it even happened before that, but it just is, again, this, I mean, it just, when you just listed everything, I'm like, yeah, check. We just, like, this was just in the news, the same stuff. They really haven't changed the routines of just this evil that they're going on. But I'm sorry, that was a whole caveat away.
No. It 100% it connects. It connects to everything. I mean, if you want to go even further, I guess to drop something not sound, but there's a blog called viceofview.com. Does excellent work. The guy's name is Recluse, that does work on there. All this connects. The serial killers like David Berkowitz, the Son of Sam killings, and John Wayne Gacy, to all these pedophile groups. I mean, everything that I've mentioned, all the Satanic Panic, Franklin, Epstein, Pizzagate, Nexium, they all connect. The players may change, but it's still occurring. Even if you want to talk about even, Moloch worship and sacrificing the children, far back as the Old Testament and Babylon, and it's the same. The players may change, but it's the same operation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. So if you could continue on I feel really bad now for getting you off the train of thought. So
no, it was important. It was I wanted to cover that because so many people display a satanic, ritual abuse that it did not occur, or at the bare minimum that these children were not molested, and it sickens me to my stomach.
Right.
I mean, it's I don't even but
So I have a question for you, John.
Yes.
So this is a question. My wife and I were just discussing this a couple hours ago, and we were discussing about you coming onto the podcast. One of the questions she had, and I this is a question that I asked the Sharp Edge. We had her on a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago, or something, and it was, why pedophilia? Why is that the attractive thing that these occultists and these Satanists are drawn to? And that was her question. Like, why is it always kids? And
my guess is it's like you guys have talked about. The Satanists can't really create; they can only destroy.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the most heinous act that they can do, which is destroy the innocence that God has given to the world?
Mm-hmm.
Children. They are. Some people argue there's an age of accountability of whether or not they inherit the sins of the father. But children are one of the greatest creations that God has given us, or has given mankind. And so even Yeshua, Jesus said himself, those who lead the little children astray, may a millstone be hung around their neck. Because in that theory, Jesus, I believe, is saying, you might as well take care of them, because if I have to take care of them, it's going to be much, much worse.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So some people could say it can be because there's power in the blood, similar to like a virgin type sacrifice that Moloch or Satan, would prefer the power being antithetical to Jesus' sacrifice, of the power of his blood. Some people would argue that. Some people say
the mockery of it. Yeah.
Yep, mockery of that. Some people would say it's the kind of like brownstone rings of international blackmail. They used to say that the Playboy Mansion was a brownstone operation where, Hugh Hefner would get some businessman or some congressman or woman, go, hey, I got a couple of Playboy bunnies up there for you up in a special room, and well, they go have sex, and then, Hef or the CIA or FBI, whoever's, behind him, he says, well, there's people he had sex with, well, they were 15 and we got it on camera. There's not really much you can do, say, so, there have been hints of brownstone operations being run, Epstein, Nexium, blackmail rings, Franklin scandal since forever. So it could be the power, aspect of world governments wanting to use it for blackmail, the world order, wanting to use it for blackmail, or it could be, like I said, it could be a perversion, taken away of innocence. It could be any of those, or it could be all of those.
Right.
Yeah. So let's jump in a little bit more then to
Yeah. So there's all these. So obviously we just singled out the McMartin one because that I would beg to say is probably the most publicized of them in the, I don't know, the milieu of whatever it is. Right. But there was, like you mentioned, all those different ones that just there are tons of them. And
there are tons. Yeah. So Country Walk, Friedman case. I mean, many.
Right. So that's all happening, and where do we go from there with all these?
Well, I guess we could keep talking about the finders. So Marion Petty, he would end up putting a phoenix up on his chest, just to tattoo a whole phoenix in his chest, and he'd later threaten his parents that he was going to kill them if they wouldn't emancipate him or let him go so he could join the United States Army, which he did as a teenager in 1933. And so he joined the military, said he lost his virginity in a whorehouse at the age of 13.
And this is Skull Kid, the kid that started the grave robbings and started a skull robbing thing. Which I was just gonna say, doesn't Skull and Bone Society up at Yale? That sounds very similar. They also pass around. Is there any connection to that? I just thought of that.
Not offhand, but I mean, yes, it is very similar.
Okay.
If it, not a no connection. Marion Petty never went to any college.
Okay.
But yes, that would be very similar in ritual. Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. And the finders actually would later do this too as well when they actually become a group, when they become together. They would also have a skull where they would put it in the center of meetings too. This is something Marion Petty would do throughout his whole life. So Marion Petty, of course, World War II, he ends up getting purchases some apartments, one on 22nd Street in Washington D.C. and one on Glover Park, and he keep those apartments allegedly open for intelligence and counterintelligence people to stay in the Washington D.C. area when they come into town during the 1940s while he was in the military. Later, he would meet many people as he became a chauffeur for the Army Air Corps at the time, because of Henry Hap Arnold. Gave him the job for that. So he would drive around many famous names that you guys would recommend, like George Patton, J. Edgar Hoover, Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Lyndon Baines Johnson, of course, all before they were presidents, General Ira Aker. So a lot of famous people that Petty had, that were in the government and that were in the military that Petty had access to. Now, guess how Petty claims, quote unquote, that he made all this money to eventually fund the finders and to buy all this land that he called the Free State, which was hundreds of acres where they found like this hippie commune, hundreds of acres around Netherlands, Virginia. Guess how he claims that he made that money?
That was going to be my question. I was like, how did he buy apartments from being in the military?
He claims that he got all this money by gambling. Just dice games between military men. Right. I actually think it was. Now, what is in this investigative leads memo that got leaked, that is unconfirmed where it got leaked from? He got the money from all these connections that he made of all these people he made. They were like, hey, give me some money to fund, do what I want to do. And and they did.
Yeah,
So that's supposedly where he got that money, the money to fund all this, or the foundation of the Fighters Cult. That would be years later. So Petty would be discharged from the military after World War II, allegedly just because he just was like, hey, I want to be discharged. And they were like, okay, fine, you're discharged. and he would allegedly he wouldn't necessarily attend Georgetown University as a student, but he would actually receive some intelligence training there. Of course, Georgetown University being a famous Jesuit institution.
Yep.
And then later would go to the U.S. Air Force Intelligence Training School in Frankfurt, Germany in the mid to late 1950s. So, of course, when he was discharged from the military, there's a story of how Petty just traveled the world and went to numerous military bases and nuclear institutions and claimed that he had top secret security during this time. So he would just go to military institutions and nuclear institutions in Europe when he was over there, just stroll on by, because he was called the stroller before he was called the game caller, just stroll. And, and no one would question him doing any of this stuff at all.
Just
any of this stuff.
Yeah. A totally normal guy. Just let him. That's insane. Yeah.
He must have been a pretty
charismatic.
Yeah, or just
yes,
really quick on his feet, kind of conniving dude.
He was very, very, very smart, very intelligent. Marion Petty was. And again, I'm just laying the groundwork that this man has been in intelligence in the military since forever.
Right.
Okay, it wasn't like just one day, the CIA approached him and they were like, "Hey, you want to find this code and you want to do trafficking for us?" No. Petty's been in it since I would argue since his teenage years. Have been blackmailed, and possibly the whorehouse he went to was a brownstone operation even back then. And so he's met all those people that I named. I mean, and there's
it's not
more.
coincidental. Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, Charles E. Marsh. He was personal advisor to President Wilson and one of the founding members of the Council on Foreign Relations. Mm-hmm. He was good friends with Petty and supposedly gave him some money too as well, and also bought some of those acres of land directly from Charles Edward Marsh. So it never ends, or it's just all connected.
Right. I was going to say, again, to hop back to present day, the connections, again, are just lining up in my head with Jeffrey Epstein. Again, this guy that they said he was smart, although I don't believe he even finished college before he started teaching at that preparatory school.
Right.
Yes.
But here's this guy, all of a sudden, some old guy that he handled his hedge. Okay.
William Barr's dad.
Yeah. But I meant all of a sudden the Seagram's guy, I think it was, or the Victoria's Secret guy, just happened to send
Lex Wexner.
Wexler, yeah, exactly. Just gives him all this money, and then all of a sudden he just happens to get into international trafficking of children and all this other stuff. It just seems he's, I guess, to kind of put it in the modern day context, is just this guy that just is either super lucky or this guy that's been almost set up from the start. I was going to say, it sounds like these people, I don't want to get into, I don't want to, don't take this as theologically sound when I say this, but it seems like someone he's really like a tool of Satan. Like, there is some extra stuff outside of just happenstance that seems to be directed towards this guy.
Well, can I add to that?
Yeah.
So I think too, he was useful for the system. They needed him,
right?
So they would make sure he had the money he needed, so that he could do what he needed to do.
Exactly.
How do you think he financed to buy an island? Right. That doesn't. It takes billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And for his education level and his experience and what was his job, like all of these things. I think
Epstein. You're talking about Epstein.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Epstein. He was literally a tool for them in the system, and who knows? Maybe they saw that he was coming. It was going to get exposed anyways, and that's why they hung him.
Yeah.
In his cell or
exactly.
whatever.
But
suicided him.
or with Marion Petty, you could say the same thing about him too.
Yes.
Or you could say, well, just like Epstein, because we really don't know much about Epstein's early years. Than we know more about Petty's than we do about Epstein. There's a good possibility that Epstein is the same as Petty, that he's always been involved from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Petty. And I do agree that Satan you'll see a whole bunch of people join the Finders. Hopefully we'll get to talk about a few of them who they definitely, you know how they say good people will cross your lives for other good people and kind of like work on this network together of people, Christians that, are working together to help the world and stuff like that. Well, there's also the opposite of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Light attracts light and dark attracts dark.
Absolutely.
So it's the same with this. In that, Marion Petty, a few people hope we get to that we talk about that were part of it. One of them being, you guys have seen, I would assume, the movie Patch Adams, right? With Robin Williams.
Yep. I was going to say Turner didn't know anything about that until I mentioned it. But yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep
not Patch Adams, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Patch Adams was a finder, and he was deeply, deeply within the cult. Actually, Marion Petty gave him the money supposedly to found his Gesundheit Institute, where he's taking care of all those children.
Wow. Oh man.
But so keep going back to the story. This is.
There's a million rabbit trails.
Yes, but I hate to keep derailing you, but so he's in this place. He buys all this land. He's got all this money. Where do we go from there?
He starts the Finders. He meets Toby Terrell, this former IRS agent, and he, with him, they start buying up all these properties within the Washington D.C. area. 2 apartment buildings, the W Street Apartments, eventually a warehouse later on. And they start the Finders group, and there's an inner group of people together within the Finders. I guess get to briefly talk about a few members of the group. Toby Terrell was one, like I mentioned. He was a former IRS agent. There's not really much of him as far as I'm sure, because the inner circle of the Finders were called the Crazies. And Hunter Patch Adams' group was called the Zanies. And investigative journalist Charles Solka, who actually knew the Finders, was actually almost dated Marion Petty's one of his daughters, or someone related to him. I don't remember exactly whom. He talks about how he knew that the Crazies, through some of the members have told him, that they were practicing pedophilia, the inner circle of the Finders, according to Solka. So I'm like, Toby Terrell was Marion Petty's right-hand man. Now, unlike the rest of these people, this group of characters, cast of characters I'm going to talk about, he seems like the most, still, he was into the human potential movement and into New Ageism and occultism and stuff like that. But there's not really so much when you're reading about him that you're like, well, he's definitely, you can't really find much to stick to him, or even Petty, other than those connections I talked about earlier, stick to him to be like, well, yeah, he definitely seems like someone that, compared to other people. I guess I should mention there was an architect in the group. His name was Roy Mason. They called him the Mad Foamer, and Roy Mason was a homosexual who was part of the World Future Society. And of course, you might recommend some of the names of the World Future Society, like Buckminster Fuller, Gene Roddenberry, Ray Kurzweil, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Carl Sagan. And so he got his master's degree at Yale. I don't know if he was in Skull and Bones, but I do know he got his master's degree in Yale. So he, according to Charles Solka, Roy Mason was, he liked to date underage boys, simply put. Like, I don't know what, and date in quotation mark. If by date, I mean, was a child sexual predator.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, you have him, you have actually one of the fighters being later convicted. Not too many years ago, Theodore Gregory Weiss. The reason why I can out him is because it's public knowledge. He was arrested for possession of child pornography until his late adulthood in his 70s and 80s, and was sentenced for possessing of child pornography.
You know how hard it was to get child pornography in the 70s and 80s?
No.
Way harder.
He got it now.
Oh,
he was
gotcha.
charged
He
now
was
in his 70s and 80s.
70s and 80s.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
gotcha.
Like it was, and actually,
That's crazy.
actually, no, it wasn't that hard. In Rossi Chet's book, there's talk about a woman who sold child pornography, and she was a mother out of her California home. She was making $500,000 a week.
Wow.
In the 1980s.
Wow.
So it was not harder. It might be more accessible now, but it wasn't harder.
Yeah.
Michael Rios, he had a similar cult, similar to the Fighters, that was kind of like an offshoot. He was a Fighters member called Community. He also owned a community store back in computer store called Community Computers back in 1980s. A lot of these things you find about the Fighters. They were big in the human potential movement, which is kind of like this hippie movement, kind of like you are God type thing. And then they're also very big in technology, even in the 70s. So, but Michael Rios, he has this whole polyamory type cult village. You know, just love. Love is love.
Right.
Love, everything goes. You know, so you see that a lot with, the members, of the Fighters. James F. Hallowell, who was Michael Hallowell, we'll get to him later when we talk about Tallahassee. Michael Hallowell's father, James F. Hallowell, he was a scholar for 9/11 Truth, interestingly enough. So yeah, this whole cast of characters, I mean, some were pedophiles, some had, are connected to the Truth movement. Some had military backgrounds, like the doctor to the Finders, who was a Ronald Alleman. He was a former Green Beret. I mean, the list goes on and on. I'm trying to think of anybody I can think of. Some of them adored Aleister Crowley, according to Toby Terrell's book, The Gengar, like Stuart Miles Silverstone was into Crowley. So yeah, I mean, this is an ensemble cast of characters that were into drugs and not all of them that I can't ascertain all, and we'll talk about that later, but there definitely were some that we knew that were into, child pornography and child molestation, some alleged, some convicted.
Right.
And just into stuff that we would find as natural perversion, as Christians, polyamory, New Age, human potential, your God type things. This is what a lot of the Finders were. A lot of it was that.
It's just like it never ceases to amaze. Or this is one of those things that just when you're naming all these people, it shows. I don't know how to say it in such a way. You mentioned Inslaw and the octopus, and I like that analogy of it, because the just for everything, that there's so much that when you're naming all these who's who, they may not all be. I don't know. I think of like some. Just pick a secret society, and they're all into a certain thing, but this is really like this inner circle is like there's one guy that's related to this offshoot of things, and they have another guy that's related to this, and they have this not compartmentalization, but it's almost like they keep it kind of lean.
They're generous,
but also
they're generous with their societies where they let them go. And
yeah, I more so meant that they have their tentacles into so much different stuff.
Yeah.
And they really just spread across the board. And that's what makes these things so insidious, is it only takes one person to influence and connect all these certain dots, but they're there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So
hey,
John, you
still
there?
No, I was listening to you guys. I mean, I mean, even sometimes I got to step, because even as a good investigative journalist, sometimes I have to step back and I got to go, am I right about this? Maybe I'm wrong about this. Right. I mean, and we'll talk about, what happened down there at Tallahassee, what was happening at the warehouse investigation in DC at the time. But sometimes, I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, maybe I'm wrong, maybe not. But it's not just one connection, like you guys had mentioned. It's not just one thing. Like if it was just one or two things, you kind of be like,
right,
coincidences, But when it's like 100 things, eventually you're like, well, it has to be.
There's something there, yeah. So we have this secret, this inner society that's all these connected with all this different stuff. What becomes of the finders? What is their modus operandi? What did they do other than, one guy that's in intelligence operations, one guy, what is the whole reason or the being of them existing? Like, what is their goal?
According to the newest leaks that we got, was what vindicated what I said previously.
Mm-hmm.
They were collecting information locally and globally. They were disseminating information locally and globally. They were blackmailing heads of state, possibly local and global. I mean, for example, the finders had passports to the USSR, China, North Vietnam, and North Korea during the 1950s to the 1980s. How do you get that? How do you get that access?
Yeah, right.
During those time periods, how did you go to those places without being intelligent? Please tell me. For the love of God, I want to know. Someone email.
Right.
Because, but yeah, I mean, now I also believe it was more than that. It was they were trafficking and selling children, according to the telexes that were found by Ramon J. Martinez. They were, shooting child pornography and selling it, according to the beliefs of Detective John Stitcher of the Metropolitan Police Department. There was evidence of satanic rituals found. They were doing satanic rituals. Of course, Toby Terrell says, well, yeah, the Metropolitan Police Department, they picked out 1 or 2 books on occultism and overlooked the 40 Bibles we had. Yeah, right, Toby. I believe that 100%.
Right.
I believe that as much if I could throw a brick.
Yeah.
But allegedly books of mind control were found and everything. So, this cult was in bed with the United States Central Intelligence Agency and possibly the United States FBI through the United States FBI's Foreign and Counterintelligence part of the FBI, which my belief was always the CIA operated on foreign soil and the FBI operated on domestic soil. But apparently the FBI has its own foreign soil division. Which I never knew that. Actually, in the report, they affectionately call the FBI Foreign Counterintelligence the FCIA, funny enough. That was a little pet name for it. But yeah, I mean, they were disseminating evidence, spreading evidence, recording evidence, blackmailing, allegedly child pornography was being shoot, and allegedly transporting children and allegedly molesting children for the United States government, allegedly.
That's the biggie.
That's the killer, yeah.
So, if I could, and I'm going to say it in kind of a blunt way, and I don't really mean it in any kind of mean or derivative way. How does the finders tie in with the Satanic Panic, the ritual molestations of kids all across the country?
Well, a couple of things. One, Toby Terrell okay. Let's discuss what they found first in Tallahassee and Washington, and then I'll be able to tie that up.
Cool.
Okay. So the reason why the finders cults came to light, that all of this was going on, was that they were busted in Tallahassee, Florida, originally back on February 4th, 1987, which was on a Wednesday. A concerned citizen, whose name was Cindy Peterson, that we later found through articles, notified the police department that she saw 6 children played in Myers Park that were poorly dressed, bruised, dirty, and behaving like wild animals. So the cops at approximately 4:50 p.m. With officers Tony Mashburn and Judy Sochioki, I think, they approached Douglas Edward Ammerman and Michael James Hallowell, who were both finders members in their late 20s. So they said that the children were en route to a brilliant school in Mexico for brilliant children, and when they were, asking the detectives were asking the children questions. The children would later tell them, and also tell them there that, that they followed a leader called the Game Caller, that they were fed only fruit and everything. And we'll get to why I think the children were abused at the bare minimum. They were at least neglected at the bare minimum.
Right.
Okay. And these children, were children that were part of the finders cult. Okay. And they're still alive today. I mean, I'm not going to tell you where you can find them, but there's a certain social media app. They do exist. They are alive. And I will try to reach out to them and interview them to get their side. which is important. You know, as investigative journalist, I should do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing about this is, like, when I talk to you guys about what they all went through and everything, like, I don't think it was only just neglect and weird parenting techniques.
Right. Yeah.
And we'll get to why that is. So the couple of things to take note that they found in this van that the finders were in. Of course, Michael Hollowell and Douglas Ammerman were arrested. Okay, they were arrested by the Tallahassee police cops over there because they thought it was odd. I mean, when you guys think it was odd, you know, you come to a park, you know, there's a whole bunch of children that are disheveled and poorly nourished and not dressed very well and don't seem to, you know, I mean,
talking about going to Mexico and they're with two guys in their 20s. Yeah,
with two copies of Miranda rights, one saying they have something to hide and one saying they had nothing to hide, and everything. I mean, you know, you tell me, you know. So, but inside the van, they did later find a couple of things of note. One was a TRS-80 computer and a Radio Shack TRS-80 keyboard that the finders members would send. The guys who were driving, because there was two vans. There was one with the Ammerman and Hollowell and the kids, and there was another van with Toby Terrell, who would later leave before this whole thing happened to go meet Marion Petty because some crash supposedly happened in Arizona, and three other members of the finders. Okay, one being Stan Burns. So there were two vans. They would communicate to each other using these TRS computers, but they also could communicate back to home base in Washington, D.C. using these computers as well. A Chinese English dictionary was found, which is important, and I'll get to why that's important in a minute. Passports for Ammerman and Hollowell were found too. So if they were just driving around the United States, why would they need passports? Okay. A brown canvas bag containing some nude photos of children. Now, when we're talking, you're going to hear nude photos of children a lot. Now, the finders just say, well, why don't, parents take naked pictures of their kids? Well, I mean, you might have a picture or two of your children in the bathtub, when they're young, but it's more than just that.
Right.
And also they had a piece of paper called the Ballad of Ballads, which referred to the Washington, D.C. warehouse, a house in the Appalachian Mountains where the Free State was, Miami, Hawaii, San Diego, and China. All those places were known locations where the finders had bases at, too. So the reason why China is important is because Toby Terrell talks about his book, The Game Caller, which is about the finders, that they went to China often, okay? And later, when Ramon J. Martinez breaks into the D.C. warehouse, he found a telex between the Chinese government and the finders in the transaction of brokerage of selling children. As well as one of the children, Jordan Areco, noted that there was Chinese nationalists that would come by and frequent the apartments all the time, and that she actually learned to count in Chinese to 10 from those Chinese nationalists that would come by and visit the apartment. Right. So they had strong connections to China. The finders did, which is very interesting. So why, especially if you're driving around, why would you have a Chinese English dictionary? Why would you have your passports? If you're just going down to Florida, why would you have these things? And they claim they're going, okay, so first they left Washington, D.C. to go to some retirement community they helped this reverend named Jim Weicker built in Berea, Kentucky, called New Hope, okay? So after being there for a couple of weeks, they left to go down to Florida, but we never knew where they were really going after Florida. Was it the school in Mexico? Was that all a ruse? We really don't know. While this was all going on, the mothers and the finders' mothers a lot would leave the children. They'd call it weaning, okay? And they would go down there to San Diego and they would go do secretary positions for months, writing supposedly for specific magazines, articles for specific tech magazines and stuff like that. Or it's very weird. Like, why would you leave your children? Like, even if this was you understand what I'm saying? Like, why would you leave your children for a long period of time to go do an odd job? Yeah. Unless you're working for the government, collecting information or, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. So that's where the mothers of these children were. And eventually they would come back and they would get possession of their children. But I mean, I guess, I do a little bit more short to try to, make it a little more brief. Or the children, they didn't. Max, for example, Max Livingstone, one of the child, didn't know what a stapler or a typewriter was. They talked about pickpocketing adults for fun. During Christmas, the women of the Finders Cult entered the main room naked while the children were there, but they all laughed and thought it was a funny game. Wow. I mean, the children, one of the children urinated on the carpet. They didn't know what basic things were. They were giving food for as rewards. When asked about sexual abuse, Jordan Areco would become very fidgety. Didn't want to answer any questions about that. And later, when they were examined by Jane Patella of Florida Health and Rehabilitative Services and Dr. Moore, it did appear possibly that Jordan Areco may have been sexually abused because her right hymen was absent. She had an enlarged vaginal orifice. And Max Livingstone lacked anal sphincter control consistent with sodomy, but it was nothing conclusive like it was with McMartin. Where it was obviously with vaginal lacerations and stuff like that. It was obviously that children were molested at McMartin. Yeah. With this, it's maybe, but it's not. I have knowledge in health too. I mean, that's what my day job is. And reading the forensic evidence, it's maybe. With McMartin, it's like, yes. With this, it's like, well, it could just been because even the doctor talks about it. Max Livingstone could have just been constipated from eating a poor diet. Right. It just appears that he was molested. But get this, you guys might find this interesting. Dr. Nathan Greenberg was flown in and charged Florida $168,000 for his work on the Finders case. Well, he was the champion for the defense for the McMartin preschool case that said that no children were molested at McMartin, and that Key McFarland questioned her techniques as the one who interviewed the children at McMartin and kind of threw shade on that case. We also threw shade on the Jewish Community Center case as well. And he was the one who threw shade on the Finders case too. According to Greenberg, nothing happened and the Finders kids were completely well adjusted.
He's a pedophile. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had that slipped out. I'm sorry.
So see, I hope everyone's tracking with this.
I know.
Is all of a sudden they start bringing in, it's basically like the Johnny Cochran, it's like they bring in the guy that just happens to be like he's super stoked on this defense of defending people from accusations of child molestation. They just bring in the number one hitter for an absorbent amount of money. Yeah. And he just happens to be connected with all these things.
And the prosecuting attorney that was going against the Finders, he was a good Christian man. And he said that this cult is satanic and it's got to go down. And guess what they painted him as?
Satanic Panic.
A Christian nutso.
Yeah.
Who clings to his Bible and clings to his guns. That's what the press said about him. The same with the social worker, the HRS social worker I talked about. Same thing about her. Oh, she's just a Christian. She's just making this stuff up.
I mean, what blows me away is at the beginning of this story, it's some concerned housewife sees some kids. And I love the fact that she took action. I love the fact that person took action to call the police initially. That's real awesome. What bothers me the most is we get bogged down in these minuscule details that actually overshadow the reality of what's happening. Do you know what I'm saying? It almost like,
like, are you saying like you get caught up on, is this medical thing proof of this?
Yeah, or I mean, you found nude photos in the van. They show signs of molestation, and you're saying, oh no, it could be constipation. But these pictures don't tie in at all.
And I 100% agree that's the main question about this case was were those pictures of these children?
Right.
Were the Finders cult children, the ones that they gave birth to, were they molested or were they trafficking other? Because there was thousands of children that were seen at the Free State by eyewitnesses, and children were kept in cages. Gosh. That's all documented. So that's $1 million. Because if you go to certain social media networks and don't harass these people or don't right, and you look, they are like, they could have been brainwashed and MK Ultra'd enough to go along with this, but they're still very close to members of their family.
Yeah.
Okay. And so part of me wants to say, well, yeah, of course. I mean, duh, John. I mean, of course they were molested, But the rational side of me say, I can't. There's certain things I can 100% say with certainty, and I'd like to say, well, yeah, they had new photos of them. Yeah, but the thing is you have to be objective about this, because so many people in this day and age, when it comes to pedophile research, they'll be like, well, yes, there's adrenochrome farms where they're harvesting the adrenal glands of children. I mean, no, that's elite, but like at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm right,
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because what if I'm wrong? I don't think I am. I'm 99.9% sure that I'm right on this, but and if you ask me, well, John, do you believe that even the children within the finders, the ones that were found in Tallahassee, were they molested? Likely yes. They were. Yeah. But I don't have. That's a big thing about the finders thing is even with the new documents, they're heavily redacted. I still don't have the smoking gun. Mm-hmm. I still don't have the smoking gun. I can see the smoke, but I don't have the smoking gun. I don't have it.
Yeah.
There's enough for us to sit around and say, there's enough coincidences for this to make it seem like definitely that was going on. But to the average person, they need more than this.
Which is so ridiculous because there's so much evidence. I mean, like just sitting here trying to be as objective as possible. At the very least, there's enough suspiciousness going on, enough suspicious actions or coincidences that lead me to believe that there's something weird going on. At the very least, there's something.
Wasn't there any confessions from the kids? Like, weren't they saying, "Oh yeah, I was touched here," or "I was"?
No, they weren't. There was no confessions that we know of. Jordan was kind of dodgy when asked about sexual molestation, but no, unlike McMartin or unlike the other cases when the finders, there was no, that we know of, indications where the children said they were molested. There were not.
So if I want to go here real quick, you talked about, there's two things I definitely want to talk about right now is Patch Adams. I know we briefly talked on him. Is there anything more about him? And then this free society, the free state is, if you have any more to share about those two things.
Well, about Patch Adams, I guess we could talk about too. They did find one thing, go to tie into Patch Adams. They did find one thing what they call Goatgate, okay, where the children ritually sacrifice. Okay, there's two accounts. One, the children ritually sacrificed a goat with adults of the finders and like removed the genitalia of the goat and everything and butchered the goat. And the children were covered in goat's blood and the adults were wearing robes, okay? Mm-hmm. Or there's the finders way of looking at it where it was animal husbandry and it was all in good faith. And they were wearing butcher's outfits were what the robes were so they wouldn't get dirty. Okay. Now I believe it's the first one, not the second one. All right. But from everything that we know, because the Metropolitan Police Department will lose it. That's what it is. But okay, so I got to bring it up. Patch Adams. This is what he says about Goatgate. Okay, what they call Goatgate. And I want to get his exact words. I don't want to misquote him. What other evidence have they uncovered? Ritual bloodletting of the goat slaughter, he added. On the farm, it's called harvest. It's animal husbandry. A practice 13,000 years old. Farmers traditionally include their children, particularly their male children, in the annual fall butchering of livestock. I've met city people who think their milk comes from a carton. Urbanites are often ignorant of the realities of food production. Their way of child rearing isn't mine. Yes, the fighters are strange. Yes, they're misguided. But there are a lot of other kinds of neglect out there. If their children have been neglected, it wasn't meant to be neglect. They mean to give their children enriching experiences. This could be the lesson of survival. If you wanted to show our society it is messed up, this certainly will do it. So that was what Hunt and Patch Adams had to say about goat sacrifice, ritual goat sacrifice and slaughter. It's the same thing that Toby Terrell said in his book, The Game Caller. Nothing to see here. The kids were shown the genitals of the goats and were covered in blood. And one of the child, there's a picture of them holding up a slaughtered goat's head. Don't worry about any of that. They were wearing robes. No. It was just, got to teach the kids how it's done on the farm. You know what I mean?
That's right, baby. It's farm life. That's Farmville for real. Oh, man, that's crazy. You can't look. I mean, you have photographs of them holding up a butchered goat's head.
Well, we've never seen those photographs, but those photographs are alluded to exist by both through the media and Ramon J. Martinez's U.S. Customs report.
Oh, good. So somebody's seen them then.
Yes, they do. Yes, and of course, Ramon J. Martinez was vilified. He was ridiculed by both. He was investigated by Internal Affairs. His report was, there was a woman named Athenia Veronius who now does paranormal investigations. She used to work with the FBI, and she lives near me in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I want to interview her towards the end of the book, even though I'm pretty sure the FBI knows I'm writing it, but still, nonetheless, I don't want to alert them unless they don't already know.
Right.
Anyway, she comes up and Toby Terrell calls her the goddess Athena, who's come to save the finders.
Oh man.
So she was actually who they based Clarice Starling on from Silence of the Lambs was Athena Veronius. Well, anyway, she pretty much said there's nothing to see here, and the reason why Ramon J. Martinez made up all these fabulous claims that we're about to talk about, what he found at the warehouse, was because he was sexist and he was a male, and he wanted promotion. He wanted promotion, and that's why he lied about all this stuff, because that's just the man he is.
Man, so here's one thing. Like, you're talking about how, like, there's nothing to see here, and this is the testimony, and you're making this bigger than it is. It sounds so familiar to everything like that. Like, immediately my mind went to Pizzagate when you hear about, oh, there's nothing in the basement of this place, and there's no kids are down here, even though you see photographs of Podesta in his house and the spirit cooking and the bizarre artwork,
or Instagram on the official Comet ping pong of them building a basement.
right, yeah. But there's nothing. You guys are overblowing this thing. You're making it. You want it to be this. Is what you.
That's what the FBI. That's what Athena Veronius said.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even talked about in the leaked documents. And every time they brought her up, she said the same stuff. I never saw anything Ramon J. Martinez said. That was all bull crap. He just lied. We never saw any of that stuff. Yeah. Even though the Metropolitan Police Department believed in him, and former Detective John Stitcher, may rest in peace, did. And Ramon J. Martinez's boss, I talked to him. He's gone on record for this specific part. John Sullivan, former head of the U.S. Customs Child Pornography Division. Ramon J. Martinez, for the 3 years he worked for me, of course, was during the finders, was quote unquote everything. He never told me a lie, and everything he told me was legit. If your boss stands by you,
right?
Yeah.
You gotta be telling something true.
So, John,
right?
I have another question for you.
Yes.
Has there been any mysterious deaths surrounding the investigation?
Other than John Stitcher dying within a couple of years after the finders of a heart attack? No, not yet.
Okay.
Also, I want to make the state that I would never commit suicide, that I'm an able-bodied male, and I'm in good health.
Yes, it's always a good time to restate that for us as well.
Public, we have it on record, and we agree with you. You're in sound mind.
But I mean, so Athena Veronius, I mean, there's one part I'm trying to find in Toby Terrell's book. I have it in my hand right now, where she literally, I mean, she like pretty much tells them, "Don't worry, we're going to take care of this." And I'm like, "What does she mean, the FBI?" Like,
right?
Like, what is? Like,
while you're looking for this, you might be able to shed some light. So we're talking about, first we have the Tallahassee arrest and all this stuff, and now we have the customs agent, which we've just mentioned his name like 20 times in the last
Ramon
minute.
J. Martinez.
Ramon J. Martinez. So that's with the warehouse up here in D.C. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
and the Metropolitan Police Department, not to interrupt you quick, because I just don't want to forget this.
Yeah.
They were actually trying to subpoena the tunnels under the supposed warehouse, and under the metro tunnels are under Washington, D.C. that are secret, that are guarded. They were trying to get that because they thought the children were being trafficked through tunnels. Remember, James Alfonso tunnels near Comet. I mean, it all connects, don't it? I mean,
that's
insane.
Let's just take a step back while you're searching for the quote and everything, as we start to move into this aspect of the finder's quote. So we have a warehouse in D.C.
Yes.
That is, they're the Metropolitan Police Department.
D.C. Metro Police.
The D.C. Metro Police
have been investigating even before then. They've been investigating the finders for at least the mid 80s
Yeah.
for supposedly shooting child porn. I mean, there's one last thing about this, and I'll let you go.
Yeah.
On this. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to forget.
No.
There's a part in the book where John Stitcher is yelling to Toby Terrell and Athena Veronius, like red in the face, I know you're shooting child porn. I know you're shooting child porn in the warehouse, and everything and stuff. So, I mean, yeah.
They weren't hiding it, but it's...
No.
And I think our audience is well on the boat that there's weird stuff here, and they're with us on this one.
Yeah.
That every time, like we did one on the Clinton body count, all these weird things, but when you have the Metropolitan Police Department actively looking in and trying to subpoena and get records that they on the whole count of they're filming child pornography in here, they have these hidden tunnels in DC. When you this is a real thing, and it just blows my mind though. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you had said that when you keep talking, there was just a trove, I think we mentioned at the beginning on Friday, of like 300 pages worth of documents that the FBI just declassified. And you had mentioned to me that the Metropolitan Police Department it's not an affidavit. What is it?
It is John Stitcher's or his partner. What was his partner name? Oh, I can't remember his partner. But it was either him or his partner. One of them, it's their actual report that was labeled secret that I never thought I would ever see. Right. I never thought I would see it. Yeah.
So that just got released Friday. And so we're still finding out more and more, but it really just blows my mind that the police department was actively looking into these tunnels, people, there's tunnels built underneath this. But,
well, you've always heard the crazy story of that. There's tunnels from the White House to Camp David, and
that doesn't, things like that. I completely believe that 100% because they have to have ways to, I think it was one of the things, it's from like the Supreme Court. It's one of these buildings. I think it's either the Capitol or the Senate. No, you can get from one of the buildings from one to the other.
Yeah, it's
underground.
I've been on that actually.
On the tunnel?
Yeah, it's a train.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little train. It's a little miniature train. It's like something at Disney World. It's crazy.
Wow,
it's pretty cool.
Finding out more about that's awesome.
Yeah, and I went to the Supreme Court the same day.
Well, look at you.
It's a different story. We'll talk.
Yeah.
Jim Bradley. Jim Bradley was the other detective for John Stitcher.
Okay.
And was it his testimony?
No, it was his report. It was either his report or Stitcher's report. I think it was Stitcher's report. And there's another thing too. Marion Petty is dead. You can declassify the name, like John Stitcher's name's declassified. Isabel Petty's name's declassified. They're dead. Marion Petty's dead.
Right.
His name's not declassified in those documents. So was he an active agent? Like, even though he's dead, like they don't declassify active agents, even if they're dead, unless they've been burned.
Right.
Is that why his name's not redacted? Or I don't know. It's just one of my theories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But Athena Veronius, according to Toby Terrell, originally told him, and I quote, and I'm going to ask her about this. I won't be able to tell you what I'm doing, but we will be working behind the scenes to put a lid on this thing. The FBI, because she worked for the FBI.
Right. And that's actively, as I keep talking about the warehouse thing.
Let's get to the warehouse.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Okay, so the biggest damning evidence that we've had since all this, and I believe that the Tallahassee Police Department did great work on this until the very end, until they were told to shut it down.
Yep.
I believe the Metropolitan Police Department did their darndest. And I believe that Ramon J. Martinez and his partner, Bob Harold, both did their darndest on this too, as well as their boss, John Sullivan. Mm-hmm. And they were shut down. Okay. So at the warehouse, this is where the damnedest, this is it. This is where we get to the part where, if this is true, and I believe Ramon J. Martinez was correct, because I think Athena Veronius is a liar, in my opinion, that what he found was true. It really is what it is. Okay. And when we talk about this, now this is not, some of the stuff that we talked about, naked pictures earlier. And there was also one thing I wanted to mention. There was a bomb threat that was called too, supposedly by the finders about the children where they were staying. They had actually moved them to a secured location when they were in Tallahassee Police Department custody, when they were in custody of the Child Protective Services in Florida too.
So one second with that. So there was a bomb threat called into the location where the children were being held by the Tallahassee police or the state government?
Yes, there was. Yes, that's in the Tallahassee Police Department document.
Like,
Yeah,
That-
there was a bomb threat.
So who knew that they were there, right?
yeah,
The finders, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Or the government, either one.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. That
There's so much
And
fishiness.
also, I want to personally go on record thanking the Tallahassee Police Department because you did not redact any of your files, and I think that was because you were mad.
yeah.
I think it was because you were mad.
Should be, yeah.
Because it's funny because the FBI, they released the Tallahassee Police Department documents in this dump and previous FOA dumps, and they're redacted. Well, guess what? I have the unredacted ones, FBI, and I think I think you kind of pissed off the Tallahassee Police Department with telling them to cover it up. That's just me. That's just me. So a raid was conducted where Ramon J. Martinez, was there, and so there was a raid done on the on both the apartments and on the warehouse. So at the apartment, one thing when the raid was done there were computers, printers, numerous documents. Finders member Stuart Miles Silverstone was found there. They found documents including information on impregnation of the female members of the finders, purchasing children, trading children, and kidnapping, how to kidnap children.
Wow.
Or telex messages using MCI account numbers between the computer terminal believed to be located in Silverstone's room in the W apartments and other terminals across different unknown places around the world. One telex ordered the purchase of 2 children in Hong Kong to be arranged from a contact in the Chinese embassy in Hong Kong. Another telex talked about the need for bank secrecy. Other documents related to the high-tech transfers to the United Kingdom. Numerous property information on terrorism, explosions, and evasion of law enforcement. The W apartments had a satellite dish and an antenna. Special instructions were found on how to continue moving children to avoid police detection.
Oh my God.
Just normal stuff.
Yeah.
Normal stuff.
Let's just put this in perspective. If Johnny Q Public, somebody said, "Hey, I think this guy is a pedophile," just some weird dude, and they raided his house and they found half or 1/10 of what you just mentioned, the dude would be in jail. Done. Not even.
Also they found a Chinese nationalist there. We talked about China earlier.
Yeah.
His name was Jezing Wang. Discovered from a telex that was later found during the raid that was his name. He was a graduate student in anatomy at Georgetown University, and then on his visa issued from the United Kingdom. He was just there. Just there.
Just there.
Just there.
Just hanging out. Oh man.
Okay. And so,
And there was holes in the basement of W Street too. I forgot to mention too as well. A food hole too that Jordan Arico had mentioned in her own testimony to the Tallahassee Police Department.
So they had banking information. They had information on how to move children without detection.
they had orders.
Orders to
Bombs.
purchase
bombs.
purchase. I mean, this is like federal everything. Like it goes way beyond.
Right. So what ultimately happened after that? So that is when.
Hold on, I'm not done yet.
Oh.
That was just what was found at the apartments. I'm not to what was found at the warehouse.
Okay.
my
sorry.
goodness.
Okay, so Ramon J. Martinez meets with Detective Metropolitan Police Department Jim Bradley to search the Finders warehouse, okay? So they find new photographs of members of the Finders, some new photographs of children in the group, one that accents the child's genitals as on display. Numerous files pertaining to the activities of the Finders from London, Germany, Bahamas, Japan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Africa, Costa Rica, Palestine, and different places of Europe. Files of commercial properties and Finders fronts. A file entitled, quote-unquote, Pentagon Break-In, which referred to members operating in foreign countries. Intelligence files on private families separate from the cult. The warehouse contained a large library, 2 kitchens, a sauna, hot tub, a video viewing room, and a indoctrination center, quote unquote. Wow. The group had a capability of the warehouse to produce its own videos, training areas for children. An altar was in the residential area of the warehouse. Many jars of urine and feces were located in the residential area. The warehouse had a satellite dish. And remember, the Finders main warehouse was located about 4 miles from the affluent Sheridan, Caloroma neighborhood in Washington, D.C. Of course, that area was where Republican lobbyist Craig J. Spence supposedly ran his brownstone ring with Lawrence E. King of the Franklin scandal. Very close in that same area. 2 brownstones in that same area operating. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my. I'm like totally. I'm speechless. I'm literally speechless.
Yeah.
What year was this? This was in the late
1987.
Okay, so it was late 80s.
Oh yeah, some of the books they found in the warehouse too. I forgot to mention concerned mind control.
You said there was an altar?
Yes, there was. There was also an altar found outside of the apartments too, like a stone altar, like rocks together.
Yeah.
As well as one of the initial complaints that made the Metropolitan Police Department investigate the finders were calls that they were practicing Satanism, which the Metropolitan Police Department supposedly blew off to a little bit of degree. As well as they also supposedly found altars out by the Free State too as well. The Virginia State Police found altars there too.
So that just proves the connection of the cultic, influence.
Right. And so here's a point you had read over, and it was, I can't remember how it had, you can reread it once I say what I'm trying to say. It had, it was talking about how to produce children, not mind control, but
well, actually,
fertility.
Fertility, impregnation of female members of the finders.
That's it. I was going to say that was one of the things. Again, I'm just jumping to kind of put things into modern context and to go to an earlier point. You might know exactly where I'm going with this. Is that Jeffrey Epstein had that he had plans that he was trying to do. What was it like? Genetic.
Yeah.
But basically, he had this
sperm
plan.
Farm.
Yeah. To make children.
Yeah.
Like to impregnate multiple
thousands. He wanted to impregnate thousands of women with his sperm.
Yeah.
To create his
He wanted to make his own race.
Right.
his own super Epsteins.
Right. Yeah. So they were I'm just trying to put stuff together here. I'm not making any claims, but it seems like they were trying to do something very similar, or at least
allegedly, yes.
Yeah. That is
what's crazy. Wasn't it called New Hope or something?
That was not the area we're talking about. That was a place that they went to that was run by this reverend named Jim Weicker, and also Montessori schools were in that area too. Were also implicated by Henry Tilden Skip Clemens as these network of Montessori schools that were molesting children, supposedly part of the similar to the daycares
in Virginia.
At the time.
Was that in Virginia?
That was Kentucky.
It was in Kentucky, New Bera, Kentucky, which is below Louisville.
Gotcha.
New Beret. Mispronouncing it. But I mean, even if you look at just a general how the finders raised their kids, they talk about a lot in Toby Terrell, how they would bring them to the Free State, and they would just let the kids do whatever they want, and the kids, the finders would be hands off, and they would kind of like rope them around outside, or they'd be able to take care of each other in this cabin, but they were always quote unquote watching them. And how they met Mary and Petty one time is they lighted up all these candles to Petty's cabin. And it wasn't Petty's cabin. It was like near this like river, this like pontoon thing that Petty could stand on. And the children never really seen him before. And they like led him to him while he was like standing around all these candles and stuff, like a god figure.
Right.
And so they're like, oh, yeah, I mean, at the bare minimum, like I do believe that it is likely that. I mean, again, like it's likely these children were sexually traumatized and abused, or the fighters were abusing children if they weren't abusing these children. But these children were neglected and abused and should have been taken away from the parents, the fighters' cult, just based off of, if you look at how they were raised, just based off of that alone.
Right, yeah.
It was an army of feral children out in this commune thing. So does the compound...
They called their place Paradise. The part of the Free State where they raised the kids was Paradise.
Of course.
Right. So I mean, Jim Jones, that's all, that's it's classic, like cult, just thing which is far beyond, that's just so insane. Do they control, I don't even know where to begin. I'm trying to say this. Is the Free State, does that still exist here? Is there people there? Is it like
I don't know now, but I will know when I go there.
Okay.
What about the buildings in DC? Are they the warehouse and the apartments?
They still exist to my knowledge. They have not been torn down.
Are they still owned by Marion Petty's estate?
We don't know about any of that.
Okay.
We don't know really what happened to the fighters. They didn't really disband. I mean, some people left, like Jordan's mother, Paula Arico, left supposedly and founded her own Seekers and Settlers cult down there in Tallahassee, Florida. Funny enough, of all places. But yeah, I mean, the fighters supposedly broke up. But I mean, Marion Petty's sons are still around. David Petty, who which Petty one of his children allegedly flew for Air America. He puts up on social media. He's part of the First Earth Battalion. The men who stare at goats. So do I believe the finders is still going on? Of course it is.
But so I would agree with you because stuff like that doesn't just go away. Has there been any
George Petty? It was his son George Petty. I just want to get that.
Has there been any legal action towards any of the stuff that we've talked about at all? Has anything come of any of it? Has there been
none?
Anything?
Hollowell and Almerman were acquitted of all charges.
Were any of the children that were in their care that were discovered to be abducted? Like any parents come forward and say, "Oh, that's my kid."
Nope, they were all those children that were in the Tallahassee were allegedly all children of the finders' parents, and I think they were. There's enough of the evidence to show that. Now, other children that have been found in the cults or other children that were mentioned and stuff like that, I don't know. But during the investigation, when they were trying to figure out who these kids were, they were contacting everyone and the brother and getting tips from all over in the United States. Maybe it's this missing child. Maybe it's this missing child.
Yeah.
Maybe this. They were in contact with NECMEC. I haven't 100% verified this, but supposedly from the new documents, NECMEC's phones were allegedly bugged too. I haven't confirmed that, but I do think 90% of that might be true. But from what I've read, from what I've heard, it comes from a trusted source. But again, and of course, NECMEC, I don't trust him either. Athenia Veronius actually went to work for NECMEC, funny enough.
Wow.
And I do have connections to modern day NECMEC being definitely, but that's a tangent, I guess. Yeah, I mean, these children, the children that were found in Tallahassee, they were all supposedly children of the finders group. Six children were.
Okay.
Now I don't want to go down to a deep rabbit hole. Maybe they weren't, maybe they were, there's only so much we can believe in, or disbelieve in, but there were other children. There were numerous children at the Free State that's been documented. Eyewitness reports. I mean, children came and go out of the finders, so what about those children? That's the question you ask, and it is not, and it does happen sometimes. Not all pedophiles act on their own children. Right. Some act on other children, and some act on their own children too.
Right.
But so I don't know. Like, all I can say is these children, from the evidence that I've seen, were, their mothers and fathers were in the finder's cult.
Well, DNA tests could help that, but it's been so long now. They're moving on, I guess,
Well, all charges were dropped against Hammerman and Hollowell, and the statute of limitations too. I mean, but yeah, nothing was ever done. Just like Lawrence C. King, he went to jail instead of running the pedophile black girl bringing the Franklin scandal. He went to jail for embezzlement.
Right. Yeah.
Embezzlement.
Yeah.
And he got free, and he went to go work with Opera Nova in Washington D.C. teaching kids opera. Of course, we got a group of us got him fired from that and everything, and went to go work for the Washington Redskins to help children and stuff. He ran a blackmail ring, sexual blackmail ring.
He cannot get away from kids.
Yeah, no. He's still free today. He's still walking around today. Still alive, walking around.
Probably lives in where I live.
He lives in Reston, Virginia.
Oh my God.
We don't live in Reston, but I know where that is.
Oh yeah, we know exactly where that is. John, this is insane, man.
The world needs Jesus.
I know, man.
Oh my God,
I still got one more question.
Okay.
I got to ask John.
Yes.
So we talked about when Petty started, and he was funded by someone. He was given authority. He was given opportunities that were handed to him because he was probably an operative for the CIA. Has any of that stuff been fleshed out or proven, or is there any way and any reason that we would know why they would be doing
it was released that Marion Petty's wife, Isabel Petty, did work for the CIA. Granted, as a secretary.
Right.
Well,
but she did work for the CIA. That was proven true by the leaks. We already knew that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a smoking gun? No, but you need to ask yourself why the CIA always knew about the finders.
Right.
Even since the 60s or 70s, why were they keeping tabs on them if he wasn't in them? So I mean,
can you speculate for me? Not on, this is nothing for I won't hold you to, but
I'll speculate 100%. Do I believe that Marion Buford Petty was a CIA agent? Yes.
And what would have been his purpose? What do you think?
To facilitate child trafficking, for blackmail for brownstone purposes, and for the
Gotcha,
enrichment of funds, because child trafficking and child pornography is very lucrative.
Yeah.
Both.
Collection of information and dissemination of information. Even the Metropolitan Police Department admitted that. Of course, they said it was non-vital information. I disagree. Marion Petty was walking through nuclear bases in the late 50s and 60s without no one with him. So you tell me, if he's got the power to do that, or the power to so one of the detectives from Culpeper, I forgot his name too. He tells the Tallahassee, Lee Hart, he tells the Tallahassee Police Department, we're thinking that Marion Petty's just going to hop on a plane at Andrews Air Force Base and just disappear.
Wow.
So,
I mean, I was going to say which is, I think, a very important point, when just an interesting little thing that I just thought of when you were talking about the dissemination of information, and I would presume more, I'm going to speculate here. Obviously, I have zero knowledge of trafficking children or anything like that, dear Lord. But one would presume that if you had a system in place, or some sort of apparatus that was in place, that you could send children across the world, and you could get away with sending children, then you could send other stuff too. Like, that is a perfect, the work's already there in place. You could sneak around anything else and get anything you wanted in or out of the country.
Information.
They were writing for journals, and newspaper organizations. One of them is actually writing for a tech journal currently in a major newspaper.
Dear Lord.
Carolyn said is Finders member, who's one of her children. BB said was one of those found. She is a current writer for San Francisco Gate as a business and tech reporter.
Wow.
So that's what a lot of these finders did. They brokered information. They had a CIA linked computer training company called Future Enterprises that was leaked to the finders. A link to the finders. The finders members were a part of it. They were training CIA agents in computer programming and techniques and stuff like that back then. The finders were training CIA agents. At the Future Enterprises, and that's leaked. And there's other businesses in the documents that are redacted. Right. We don't even know that the finders were had connections to the CIA that we don't even know of. So, they brokered information. They probably, through the CIA, through Operation Mockingbird, disseminated information through all of these newspapers and journals that they worked for.
Right.
Lord knows. We don't really know. I've been researching this for 3 years, and I only know so much,
It's deep. It goes way. It's deep. When you said it was tentacles, you're right, man, Rosie. You're like the octopus. Yeah,
that's so absurd. Wow.
Man.
Yeah, it never ends. Spiritual warfare is real, people. And your government's involved in it. I don't know what else to say. Merry Christmas. Happy Halloween. I wish it wasn't so. I'd like to believe in our government and our elected officials and stuff. But when you got these, it's just too much. It's just too much. It's just too much evidence.
And that's what I was trying to think. I was kind of speechless, because I'm just thinking of I want to say hey, listener, sorry, there's no real good way to even wrap this up. It's just this is it, and nothing happened, and they're probably still doing this stuff
today.
They
just changed location names and it's just they've learned from their mistakes, and they just get
better at it. And like you said, the people, I don't want to get too hippy dippy or anything like that, but the physical person changes, but the position or the role that that particular person, someone,
fills,
the role needs to be filled, and it gets filled with people that are all too happy to be a patsy, or not even a patsy. It's not even a patsy, because they know what they're doing. They'll be the fall guy. They'll do it for
the billions of dollars,
the earthly possessions, or stuff like that. It's
or they're into it, or
or
or that's the thing is did was Epstein murdered? Was he? Like, I mean, we really don't know. I hate to get too conspiratorial, but we don't.
Yeah.
But we do know he was a sexual addict. I mean,
that is true. And I mean, but even if you look at the way he was hung and how he was hung himself, and like none of it makes any sense. Like, how did he jump off his bed and do a backflip at his age? And, I mean, so I mean, that's the thing is that I don't know how to end this. I don't know how to say, other than, watch your children and raise your children with God and let them know what they need to look out for. And spiritual warfare is real people and love Jesus with all your heart. I don't know what else to say.
Well,
I mean,
that's perfect. Yeah.
Well, it is true. And I think I could add to that if you don't mind.
Yes.
Like we talked about this on our Nifty 50 special, our 50th episode. We talked about why are we doing what we're doing? There is, in Genesis 6, there's a Luciferian system that's been put in place, the Babylonian system that's in place, and it's been at work since the beginning, and it has morphed and taken different shapes and ways that it's been exposed, and at the end it will be destroyed, and there will be a theocracy with Jesus sitting on the throne, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible, but we live in that system. Unfortunately, the king of this world is Satan, or the prince of this world is Satan. This is his domain, and until God takes it back, till Jesus takes it back and restores it, it's going to be his playground. And so this is what we deal with. We deal with pedophiles and satanic cults and the real evils masked behind all kinds of hidden things.
Yeah.
And we're just going to expose it. And I love what Galatians says. Paul says he has paraded them around with victory from the cross. That he's basically disarmed them through the victory in the cross. And so Jesus is the only way. He really is the only answer through this. So
amen.
Yeah, man, that was my sermon for the day. John, you're amazing.
Yeah, I am.
Honestly, the amount of work, you said you've been doing 3 years of the work, the amount of work and just what flows out of you when you speak about this, it's so informative and it's so overwhelming. And man, I hope that you can keep at it. And I hope that the smoking gun falls in your lap someday so you can actually be the one that gets the opportunity to reveal it,
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I was weird. All of a sudden, my phone just start playing YouTube like out of nowhere. So that was weird. So I had to go over there and turn it off. I was like, "What the?" But yeah, I mean, definitely thank y'all for that, and I hope so too. I hope that I can get down to the bottom of this, and if there is any truth to it, I hope that people are held accountable and justice is served. If there's not any truth to that, then I hope people are vindicated.
Yeah,
I go as an investigative journalist, even though I am a conspiracy theorist too. I still go into it hoping that you can't go on. These people are guilty. You have to go on the basis that these people are innocent, no matter what is thrown upon you, until you just cannot deny it anymore with too many, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Right.
Right. And I do believe that I am there at this point. But I definitely want to thank you guys for having me on All Out War. Hopefully I can, come on again.
Yes.
You guys will have me on again and discuss.
Absolutely.
Discuss matters such as this. And if anybody's down, I want to end the podcast on, just love your children and take care of them. And, as it's talked about in the New Testament, and revere them and everything. And just realize that Satan only has a brief period as the ruler of the earth. And it's all false, just like he, tried to tempt Jesus with everything. And though the powers that be may be doing all these evil things and everything like that, that one day that, Jesus will, it's foretold in Revelation, God and Jesus will win at the end, and this will all be cleansed and everything.
That's right.
And so, just look forward to that, and just do your best with your family. Just try to be with them and everything. And hopefully, like I said, justice, I would like earthly justice to be served, but I know that heavenly justice, divine retribution will be served one day.
That's
yes.
Right. Yep.
And it will be so good. I hope if we don't get to see it here, that I envision God bringing all of us saying hey, check this out. You're finally we are all, I hope we are all able to witness like
It's gonna be
the
a
destruction.
It's gonna be a Lake of
all this
Fire
evil.
beach party, buddy. That's what
Yeah.
it's gonna be.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch them get tossed in, and we're just gonna have a big beach party and just like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. John, thank you so much for your time, man. And like we said at the beginning, please go check out his stuff.
That's right.
This is only one thing that
Right.
This is only one thing that John talks about. And I was going to say that the most amazing, I'm going to, whatever it is. You talk about so much stuff on your channel, your YouTube channel, the podcast you have, that I honestly don't hear anywhere else. And like the name of your channel, We've Read the Documents. I mean, that's the best way to, you do incredible research, and I want everyone, please go support John, go watch his videos. You will learn something that you've never heard of. There's so much stuff that I could just pat you on the back for, I guess, so to speak. And but dude, thank you, and please keep up the amazing work.
Yeah,
man.
don't stop, man.
Yeah,
I will, and you guys too as well. I'll be listening. I am a fan of All Out War, the podcast, and everything. Until next time.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Love you, brother.
Thanks for listening to the All Out War podcast today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to know more, you can visit us on the web at alloutwar.us, or you can find us on Twitter at alloutwarcast. Hey, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.